Let's continue to spotlight some teams outside the top 20 in the Big Ten Conference. And Alan, let's begin with Nebraska. It seems like Matt Rule has really gotten his footing there in Lincoln.
Yeah, they had momentum at the end of last year's class, obviously, with signing a guy like Dylan Raiola. Were able to carry that into the spring and summer and got off to a really fast start in this 2025 class, and then got a tremendous boost early in the season when they had a tremendous home game atmosphere against Colorado. That was one of the big wins of the early season, and recruits were just raving about that atmosphere, and that allowed them to add some new commits to the class, also flip a couple guys like Alabama commit Dawson Merritt, who had gone away from the Huskers. They kept chipping away with him. They did that with several guys in this class. Isaiah Mosey was a flip from Oregon. So Nebraska always stays dangerous in these recruitments. They recruit till the very end. They do the same in the transfer portal with recent additions like Rocco Spindler. He and Elijah Pritchett are a key part of that transfer class as they fortify the offensive line. So top to bottom, I really like this Nebraska class. I think they have some instant impact guys. Really like their front seven class with Merritt and Christian Jones, but I also think there's some guys who down the line are going to pay big dividends. Sean Hammerbeck, 4-star out of the Dakotas, who I think can be a draft pick one day. So a really great blend here of instant impact and some guys who I think will make an impact more in year 2 and year 3.
A program that continues to rise and transcend, I think, from a recruiting standpoint, with a lot of prospects having a lot of interest in taking visits there. Brian, I know that Maryland is a program that is attracting a lot of interest up and down the East Coast. What did you like about their recruiting class?
Well, first of all, I think they got a quarterback that can be the cornerstone for years to come. I think in Malik Washington, he's our number 5 quarterback overall. I think when you look at him, big athletic kid, also a really good basketball player. I don't think he's going to be ready from day one at Maryland, but he's a guy that knows everybody in the region. He's a very likable kid. He's personable. He'll get into school and really dive into the playbook. And I think for me, when you look at Maryland, they were looking for quarterbacks. They're still looking, did they find a guy in the transfer portal or not? But when you're looking to build a program, you want to sell a quarterback, and they were able to do that. He committed in June, but I think everybody knew he was heading there by maybe mid-April. And then the other thing I like, and I think this is something we're going to continue to see with maybe not the Blue Bloods, but with some others, Maryland went out in the region and got some really good players. And you can count on NIL with rev share coming up. That kind of stuff can even the playing field. And you look at, they got a really good offensive lineman, Jalen Gilchrist, out of Virginia Beach, and they beat South Carolina for him. And there was some NIL involved with it. They did that. They got Messiah Dolhome out of Virginia, kind of like the Northern Neck area, Newport News. I like him. He missed a lot of the season with an injury. But, I think he's a guy that he almost committed to Ohio State. He can run all over the field. He upgrades their talent in the secondary. They were really young in the secondary last year, and they were not very good. They got an unbelievable player in Carlton Smith, a linebacker out of Maury in Norfolk, who, listen, if that kid was 2 inches taller, he would have gone anywhere in the country. Pound for pound, he's as good as there is as far as a tackler and a playmaker playing middle linebacker. But I like that they really just upgraded their talent. They got a lot of high-end talent. And, they got a defensive lineman, Bryce Jenkins, out of Washington, D.C. I think he's best on the offensive line. He wants to play D-line, which is fine. They'll figure it out later, and they need help on the line of scrimmage. But, you're talking about a kid who's 5th on the class, and he's a top, he's a 4-star kid. Normally, that's the top player Maryland gets, and he's kind of like down the board a little bit on this one. So I like how they upgraded their talent.
Elsewhere in the Big Ten, I thought Washington put together a really good class considering some of the changes that they had to undergo. They compete in the national championship game under Kalen DeBoer. Jed Fish comes in and has to kind of clean things up. And this was his true first recruiting class. They did a terrific job of beating some blue bloods. Ryland Dillard-Allen is a safety we really like out of the state of Arizona. And he took an official visit to Alabama, had established a really good connection with that old old Washington staff, still ends up at Washington with the new staff. I thought they hit it out of the park there. And another defensive back, Dylan Robinson, they beat out Notre Dame, and it's never easy to beat out Notre Dame, especially with the run that they went on this season. Dylan Robinson will play corner for the Huskies, but also has the potential to be a standout wide receiver at some point down the road. And Baron Naone was a player that really caught our eye earlier this year at the Polynesian Bowl out in Hawaii, a big pass-catching tight end. They lose a Vander Plooge to Oregon. The rival school comes in and flips the top 24/7 tight end, but they end up flipping Baron Naone from the state of Oregon. And I think it's a player that's going to make a really nice impact for Seattle, for the Huskies there in Seattle. Alan, Wisconsin was another school that I think got off to a really good start, and they maintained a steady pace there with this recruiting class in 2025 as well.
Yeah, got out pretty fast, and I think ended the cycle strong as well after maybe a little bit of a lull in the middle. And when you think Wisconsin, you think Joe Thomas, you think the Watt brothers, you think both lines of scrimmage, and I think this class is very strong on both sides of the ball up front. So first you have the defensive line class, which is led by four-star Nicholas Clayton, which they went down to Florida and picked up. Transfer class full of defensive linemen, a bunch of them that are going to come in and give them immediate depth and experience. High school offensive line class led by some guys like Michael Roski and Nolan Davenport, really good. But I think where you have to look at this class as the linchpin for the next few years and the immediate future for Luke Fickell and his staff is at quarterback. You bring in two transfers in Danny O'Neill and Billy Edwards. This is a position where they've had some instability, hoping those guys can right the ship. And then towards the end of the cycle, they flip Carter Smith from Michigan in their high school class. I think he has a lot of ability to be the quarterback of the future, athletic, tough, and I think that Carter Smith has the chance to make this a little bit of a different feel for the Wisconsin class, especially if they can land or they can have those quarterbacks turn out.
Brian, let's wrap this up with Rutgers, a program that I know we were talking off air has been making some changes to make strides in recruiting.
Yeah, we'll go this. When you look at Rutgers, here's what jumps out to me. They beat schools and they held off South Carolina for Michael Clayton, Penn State for Robbie Johnson. Braxton Kyle, Georgia and Texas were involved. Isaiah Deloach, North Carolina State was involved. Indiana was involved. My point is NIL, rev share moving forward is going to be an equalizer in some of this. And Rutgers went into places they usually don't go into and got some of the top players in their class because these kids are interested in playing in the Big Ten and they know no matter where they go, there is going to be some kind of money there.
24/7 Sports national recruiting analyst Brian Dohn, Alan Trieu, thank you so much for joining us. Let's continue the Big Ten discussion with a closer look at the Illinois recruiting class. Here's Jeremy Werner of the Illini Inquirer.
For years, Illinois football had to hold its breath leading into signing day because as they struggled at the bottom of the Big Ten, a lot of better and bigger programs would come in and try to steal their top prospects. Well, Illinois has flipped that script as they're able to flip a lot of commitments, especially after a 10-win season and a Citrus Bowl victory over South Carolina. That's what really stands out about this class for Illinois. Of the 21 prospects they signed in this class, 9 were flips. While some of those were Group of 5 or FCS prospects, Illinois was able to flip 5 players from Power 5 programs. It started in the summer as Illinois flipped 3-star defensive back R.J. Jones III from NC State, also flipped 3-star edge rusher Eric Gale from Cincinnati. But as Illinois started to win games in the fall and some of their competitors lost games, they really ramped it up. They were able to flip 3-star in-state tight end Logan Farrell from North Carolina as they went through a coaching change. Also able to flip from a Big Ten rival, John Forster, a 3-star running back out of New Jersey from in-state Rutgers. But the coup de grace in this class for Illinois was flipping 4-star linebacker out of Ohio, Grant Bierman, from one of their biggest rivals, Purdue, as Purdue lost game after game after game. But that ability to flip great prospects from other Power 5 programs is a big reason Brett Bielema just signed Illinois football's top-ranked recruiting class in 14 years.
A lot of excitement for Illinois coming up in 2025, but thank you to our friend Jeremy Werner for helping dissect what the future of Illini football looks like. You can check out more of his work on the Illini Inquirer. They have the number 12 recruiting class in the Big Ten. You heard our guys, Blair Angulo, Alan Trieu, Brian Dohn, talk us through some of the impressive Big Ten classes. One of the dark horses in the group, of course, got to got to shout out Rutgers here. A fantastic group that they've been able to put together, but there's just tons of talent headed to the Big Ten in so many different classes.